morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today, we are talking Market Watch. I've got 8 players today that you should be buying or selling based on their current valuation, and it's going to be a good one. We have some great buys and sells today. I'm excited to talk about these players, so go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And good morning and welcome into the chat, everyone. Here, Applied Literature, Scott Hudson, Lucas, Big Country, Louie, Dakota, everyone here. Even if you're listening on the podcast, guys, thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Terminal Sarcasm didn't have enough coffee in the pot today. Sounds like you got to run to Starbucks while you're listening to this or something, man. Come on, got to get more coffee going. Got to get more coffee. Also, what happened to your bird profile picture? What happened to the bird profile picture? Alex, welcome in. Guys, we've got the Market Watch. This is just what we do on Wednesday. We talk about some of the players that valuations have changed or maybe even stayed the same, but that I'm more comfortable making a move on. So 8 players, buy, sell, no holds today. Today, only buys and sells, genuinely. It's going to be a good one. Go ahead and start with Tua Tagovailoa. Guys, we're buying Tua. We are buying Tua. I looked at Keep Trade Cut this morning. I looked at Keep Trade Cut last night, and he is outside the top 25 as a Dynasty quarterback. And this, I believe, would honestly be a move for both Redraft and Dynasty. I've seen Tua dropped in a lot of single quarterback leagues. I would begin to pick him up over the next couple weeks, but in Superflex as well, this is a player I want to trade for. I want Tua Tagovailoa. I know that I'm on record saying I want him to retire, but I'm also on record saying that he's not going to retire. He's not. The report came out almost 2 days after the concussion that he doesn't plan to walk away from football. That showed to me he didn't really give it any thought at all, that he wants to keep playing. But then Ian Rappaport, or maybe it was Schefter reported this week that Tua has been meeting with a bunch of neurologists, and none of them have told him anything that would dissuade him from playing, that he's been symptom-free over the last week, and that he should return earlier, or, right when he finishes up his RR stint of the 4 games. He should be back right after that. So, get Tua Tagovailoa on your team, guys. We've seen him play really well so far this season. In week 1, or I guess really through the 2 weeks in general so far this year, he had 62 pass attempts for 483 yards and 2 touchdowns, was averaging 13.6 fantasy points per game, which was solid, but we've seen better from him. Last year, he was 16th in points per game. In 2022, he was 9th in points per game. And last year, he had almost 5,000 passing yards. When you've got Tyreek Hill to throw the ball to, that's very helpful. But also, you have Jalen Waddle. You've got Devon Achane catching passes now. And Odell Beckham's practice window has opened up. The Dolphins have looked terrible without Tua. They've looked terrible without Tua. And that shows that he's good. He's just playing good. And again, I mentioned he is quarterback 25 right now on Keep Trade Cut. He is behind Bo Nix. He is behind Michael Penix. He is behind Sam Darnold. He is behind Geno Smith. He is right next to Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, and Kirk Cousins. All of those quarterbacks, I would rather have Tua Tagovailoa over, okay? I know it's scary. I know it's tough. And I know we're worried that he may retire and not play as long, but this is a player I am acquiring in both Dynasty and Redraft. He's been productive throughout his career. He's got good weapons. And right now the market is cold on him because we're not sure if he's going to return. But every report suggests that he will return and that the thought of retirement really hasn't even crossed his mind. So if you can get Tua Tagovailoa for a decent price, which the market is suggesting you can, do it, and reap the benefits later. I will definitely be sending out some Geno for Tua trades. I will be sending out some Sam Darnold for Tua trades. I want Tua. I want him on my team because I think that he's just going to be awesome, especially in Dynasty. If you can get him in Dynasty Superflex, that's probably where it's even easier to acquire him. Because people are worried about his longevity. It doesn't seem like he's retiring. There's no report suggesting that at all. So just get him while you can. And before we move on, shout out Terminal Sarcasm. Picasso is back as the avatar, requesting a Pip cameo. Hold on, he was eating, so he's kind of mad at me. But here we go, Pip cameo. Pip, say hello. Say hello to Picasso. There is not a thought going on in that bird's head. Anyway, the next player that we are making moves for, or this time we're actually going to be moving away from, this is George Pickens. I am calling the top on George Pickens' value, both seasonal and dynasty. Wide receiver 23 in dynasty right now. Not sure where he's at in redraft. Probably not that great. He's been kind of hit or miss. 20 receptions, 284 yards, no touchdowns so far this season, averaging 38th in points per game. Wide receiver 23 is a very high price tag for the type of receiver George Pickens is. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge George Pickens fan. I've been drafting him almost every single season since his rookie, or every single season since his rookie year. I've very much been in on him. Being from Georgia, I had a lot of friends that went to UGA and just loved what they saw from him and the dog mentality that he has. But as Justin Fields gets more and more acclimated as the QB1 in this team, it is going to be very hard for me to actually want his wide receiver 1 at this price tag of wide receiver 23. That is a top 24 dynasty wide receiver. And when you look at some of the wide receivers around him, it's just a different tier to me. It's just a different tier to me, at least in terms of what that ceiling could be. It's going to vary on what type of trade package you could get. And for the most part, I'm trying to down tier George Pickens. I'm not sure what you'd have to add to tier up to him, but if you could get, like right now on Keep Trade Cut, we'll see if this ends up changing. And I'm sure that, I understand that it varies from league to league, but right now, George Pickens is ahead of Xavier Worthy. He's ahead of DJ Moore. He's ahead of Jamison Williams. He's ahead of Chris Godwin. And those are some great trade targets, but there's some cheaper ones as well if you want to get even deeper. Or you could, like I said, try to tier up. But either way, I feel his ceiling is limited as the wide receiver 1 here in a low volume pass offense. And, we still haven't even had the wide receiver 2, Roman Wilson, play a game yet. He will at some point in his career become a good wide receiver 2. I very, very much believe in Roman Wilson as a prospect. And what we're seeing from George Pickens is just not top 24 dynasty asset, right? 18th most targets, 26th in air yards, 64th in red zone targets, 38th in points per game, 81st in yards after catch. Like, I don't know, 26 in yards per target, 34th in total fantasy points, 50th in fantasy points per target, 36th in fantasy points per route run. He's going to have those spike weeks. He is a dog. He's a really, really good wide receiver, but I'm just calling the top on his dynasty value. I think that you could sell him right now at about the selling point that you would always be able to sell George Pickens, even if things continue to go well. I don't see him passing a Brandon Ayuk, a Jalen Waddle, a Jackson Smith-Njigba, a DK Metcalf, a Rashee Rice, a Tyreek Hill. Like, those are just players a tier above him, or at least half a step above him. And this is just about the top. This is where I think George Pickens' valuation will level out, and that's fine. He's going to be a perennial 1,000-yard, 4 or 5 touchdown wide receiver, and there's nothing wrong with that. But right now, you could get a little bit more upside for him than that would suggest. And speaking of some upside that you could get, if you could sell George Pickens and get Tank Dell with a cherry on top, I am doing it. I understand that Tank Dell is off to a very, very slow and concerning start. But in Dynasty, this is mostly Dynasty, although I still believe in Tank Dell redraft. But this is mostly Dynasty, as I see he's the Dynasty wide receiver 33 right now. And I honestly think that his valuation, like if you were to ask a league partner to trade for him, it would probably be even cheaper than that price point suggests, just based on the performance, based on the injury, based on how good Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins are looking. But in Dynasty, you have to remember that Stephon Diggs is out after the season, and Tank Dell will be the wide receiver 2 again in 2025. And what we saw from him last year was just incredible. Just incredible what we saw from him last year. Off of only a 20% target share, he was able to bring in 47 receptions, 709 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns last year, and really a limited sample size before his injury. He was incredible. Absolutely incredible last year. Right now, he's around the range of a Michael Pittman, a Keon Coleman, a Terry McLaurin, a Ladd McConkey, a George Pickens, as we talk about. And I just think that, especially over the course of the career, this receiver is going to be a lot better than he is right now. Right now, so far through the year, he only has 17 targets, only a 15% target share, only 9 receptions, no touchdowns. I know it hasn't been good. He's the wide receiver 74 right now, but I do believe he could turn it around. And if an injury, again, knocking on wood. If an injury happens to Stephon Diggs, he's right back up there, you know? And so I want to acquire Tank Dell while I still can. He's super acquirable in redraft. In fact, I'm sure in shallower leagues, he's even been dropped. And that to me is just asinine. This is a player that was hyper productive last year. He has a great connection with CJ Stroud, and it hasn't necessarily translated yet this season, but I think it will at some point. And even if it doesn't in Dynasty, it'll definitely kind of rebound next year in 2025. So I'm really just doing whatever I can to get him right now. I'm throwing seconds Tank Dell's way, and maybe even a small piece if somebody asks to try to get him right now. I don't think I'm at the first round territory. I think you could get him for less than a first rounder right now. But if you could get him for a second, if you could get him for another kind of wide receiver in that range, or if you want to down tier to him, or tier down to him, I am all for it. I do think that this is a wide receiver we need to be acquiring before it's too late. And he's going to be awesome, especially in full PPR leagues next year for sure. But there's also a case this year, whether it be injury or just literally turning it around. Because if we remember, one thing we talked about a lot this offseason was the Houston Texans target share. And I told you, don't avoid a single one. Draft Nico Collins, draft Stephon Diggs, draft Tank Dell. If you added up their target shares last year when they were all hyper productive, they each would have only summed up to 75%. Stephon Diggs had about 30. Tank Dell had about 20. Nico Collins had about 24. And that was about 75% between the three of them, leaving 25% of targets still available for Dalton Schultz and Joe Mixon and whoever the hell else wants to catch balls. But basically, there's still plenty of opportunity within this offense for all three of these wide receivers to reach their ceiling potential. We're going to have spike weeks from Tank Dell at some point. He's been close, too. The first couple of weeks, there were some deep shots his way that were almost brought in. There's been penalties going against him as well. Tank Dell is going to resurge at some point, and I just highly recommend buying him while you still can. Next, moving on. I've got two players from the same team, so I'll kind of lump them together, but it is two separate things. In redraft, and I mean Dynasty too, although I don't think you could really get much value for him. But in redraft, I think you should be selling Chuba Hubbard. Right now, he's the RB15 in PPR leagues. He's averaging the 18th most fantasy points per game with 15.8, 296 rush yards, 84 receiving yards off 13 receptions. He's been a machine with Andy Dalton back at the helm, and people are getting really, really excited about what the Carolina Panthers backfield and really the team in general is putting together on offense. And so I do believe if you have a Chuba Hubbard, you should be exploring selling right now. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I am trying to get out of Chuba Hubbard before Jonathan Brooks returns, because I do believe it's going to be a very murky and ugly split as they try to work in Jonathan Brooks, get him acclimated to the NFL level. And also, since they're not a very competitive team, I just think that there's not going to be a ton around for both of these guys to be super relevant, or they'll both be kind of relevant, as opposed to one being very, very startable every single week like Chuba Hubbard is right now. So if I have him, I'm exploring options. It'd be cool to see if maybe you could pull off, like see what you could add to get a Christian McCaffrey if that manager's panicking. A DeAndre Swift, I think, could be very interesting. We'll talk about him more later in the show. But just some other, maybe even just other backup running backs in general, not even backups, but just like handcuff pluses and seeing if you can maybe get another wide receiver on top. But I'm trying to get a good package for Chuba Hubbard in redraft leagues, because I'm looking at him right now, and it's week 5 now, so Jonathan Brooks is eligible to return. Chuba Hubbard is getting a ton of usage, but I don't think that he's going to continue to be a true bell cow. So I just want to get out from under him while I can. And I know that obviously a lot of league mates are going to be like wise to it and know that Jonathan Brooks is returning. But I still think that, you know, especially like right now over the next couple days before it becomes official, there's like one more window left for people to look at what he's producing right now, feel excited about that Carolina offense, and want a piece of it. And so I would just be exploring like just whatever you can. Like if you get Trey Benson plus, maybe a Jalen Wright plus, I don't know. Like those two options I think could be kind of fun. See what you could add to get Christian McCaffrey as mentioned. I like DeAndre Swift a lot. But I just think right now this is about his ceiling. This is about his ceiling in redraft. But also in Dynasty only, I am selling Jonathan Brooks. He doesn't have much redraft value right now, reasonably so. But I checked Keep Trade Cut this morning to verify this, and he's the RB11 in Dynasty. And I'm just going to go right back into my old bag of tricks and just say, can we let him prove it first? Can he play a snap first before we crown him an RB1 in Dynasty? Because we were doing the same thing heading into this season for a lot of running backs that are really far down now. And I just think if you put on the lens of remembering fantasy football value, you could be ecstatic on the type of return that you could get for Jonathan Brooks right now. You could get, probably, being completely honest with you right now, you could get Trey Benson in a first right now for Jonathan Brooks. And that is something that was absolutely unheard of heading into the season. And I kind of agree with Shaka Zulu. Brooks may be overrated. I mean, like, it's not like he saw a lot of snaps in Texas until Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson left. And he was pretty productive, but he is returning from an injury. We have to remember that. And he's going to be splitting a backfield with a really good running back in Chuba Hubbard. I don't think that Jonathan Brooks is going to be able to come in and just be a bell cow right away. I think that there's going to be a ton of acclimation, especially this season. Next year, he may be a bell cow. I don't know. But this year, it's going to be a split between him and Chuba Hubbard, and Jonathan Brooks stands to lose a ton of dynasty value. I am selling him right now really at whatever cost. I see he's right next to Christian McCaffrey. I see he's ahead of Travis Etienne, Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, Brian Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara. All of those running backs I would honestly probably have over Jonathan Brooks right now, just because they've proven it. And they're on better teams, right? And so I'm just selling Jonathan Brooks in Dynasty, holding on to him in redraft. But just remember, like months ago, at the end of the first and second of our rookie drafts, it was Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson back to back. Now you could get Trey Benson with a massive cherry on top right now, and I'm doing that because we remember the calculus is exactly the same for Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson. Everyone was drafting these running backs in the hope that they would be the bell cow in 2025, but Trey Benson hasn't had a great offseason, hasn't had a ton of usage yet, and James Conner's looking good, so he's lost a lot of value. But Trey Benson's argument is still exactly the same in that he'll probably be a bell cow in Arizona next year. So that is my favorite trade target, Trey Benson plus for Jonathan Brooks, just because they're essentially the same. But really any running back, to be completely honest with you, within this range, if you could tier up to a Kenneth Walker or a James Cook, do it. Do it. Trade Jonathan Brooks while you can. Sell him in Dynasty for sure. The RB11 without playing a snap, returning from an injury on really a bad Panthers team, I honestly don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Anyway, moving on to another running back that I've mentioned a few times now, and that's DeAndre Swift. I know a lot of people are saying, sell high on DeAndre Swift. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is not the time to sell high on DeAndre Swift because you're not selling high on DeAndre Swift. You are using one good performance as a lifeboat. That's not market analysis. That's not how you should go around fantasy football valuation. If he does it a couple weeks in a row, that's selling high. But I talk about this a lot with Matty Kiwoom on Trade Gods. We've discussed this a lot. Sometimes selling high is just selling, or rather a buy window. Sometimes one good performance happens for a player, and the person that was rostering them looks at it and is like, oh, now I have a chance to sell him. I don't think that's the case here with DeAndre Swift. This was a player I was heavily targeting this offseason, and I'm admittingly very, very disappointed in the performance heading up to this week. But this week, we saw exactly what I was hoping to see from DeAndre Swift all season long. He had 7 targets, brought in all seven of them, so 7 receptions in a single game. He had a lot of rush yards. He's getting basically bell cow usage in Chicago, which is exactly what the contract they signed him to suggested. 3 years, $24 million, $8 million a year. And right now, on Keep Trade Cut, he's the Dynasty RB 34. He's only 25 years old with insane athleticism and some really good production throughout his career. In 2021, he was 8th in points per game. In 2022, he was 15th in points per game. And last year in Philadelphia, he had over 1,000 rush yards and 200 receiving yards. And this year, he's already averaging 12 fantasy points a game, which is top 25. Either way, nothing is really matching. His performance is not matching his value right now. And I think you could get him in redraft. I think you could get him in Dynasty, and I think you'd be very, very excited about what he's going to put forward the rest of the season. I don't care that Roschon Johnson is going to take some goal line and third down work. DeAndre Swift is awesome. He's getting a 64% opportunity share right now. He has the 9th most receiving yards, 10th most receptions amongst running backs. He's just playing well. He's just playing well. He's got a 12% target share. And this Bears offense in general is finally starting to click. And I think that that's exactly why it was rough the first few weeks of the season, is the Bears offense just didn't look good. But now Caleb Williams is starting to unlock himself. Keenan Allen is back. Rome Odunze is getting unlocked. Cole Kmet is getting unlocked. Now DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson is getting unlocked. Slowly but surely, this Bears offense is turning into what we would hope they would turn into. And DeAndre Swift is a massive, massive part of that. So if someone in your league put DeAndre Swift on the trade block to sell high, buy. Because I think that his value could go much higher. Because if you remember, guys, I understand that this was like 2-3 years ago at this point, but DeAndre Swift was like a top 5 dynasty running back. And not much has really changed, to be honest. I mean, last year, I think, was a huge step in the right direction, playing in a full 16 games, right? Like, really the big thing has been that he's undersized, but now he's really getting the proper utilization. You know, they're not putting him in these goal-to-go situations. They're using him as a pass catcher. They're using him running outside and stretches and stuff like that. Like DeAndre Swift is getting proper utilization, and everything is finally starting to click on the Bears offense. I think that DeAndre Swift is going to be a really big part of it. And I just want to get him on my team, especially in PPR leagues, while I still can. I understand that he just had a great performance, so this isn't a great time to buy. But like I said also, that also to me suggests a buy window right now. And so I want this player. He's awesome. He really, really is. Get him while you can. Moving on. This one hurts. But I'm going to triple down now. I'm going to triple down on Mark Andrews. He has burned me 2 weeks in a row in the Start Sit show that we do every Sunday morning, guys. If you have any Start Sit questions, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m., we've got a Wake and Take, bonus Wake and Take episode, giving my top starts and sits of the week, as well as some flex plays. And over the last 2 weeks, I have said that you can start Mark Andrews because I'm not giving up on Mandrews. But right now he's playing like Boy Drews, and man, is the fantasy community getting upset. Understandably so. He has been awful this year. Not even to mince words, but his value is plummeting. And I mean plummeting. He is the player 149 on Keep Trade Cut. He is the tight end 16 in Dynasty. Redraft right now, he's the tight end 39 in performance, just not playing well. But when you're telling me that I could conceivably get Mark Andrews for Tucker Kraft, I mean, like, seriously, like, at some point we've just gone too far. He's only 29, which is basically 26 in tight end years. I mean, like, he's entering the tight end prime. And last year, in the shortened season, he was 5th in points per game. The year before that, he was 3rd in points per game. The year before that, he was 1st in points per game. The year before that, he was 4th in points per game. The year before that, he was 5th in points per game. I mean, this player, Mark Andrews, is one of the best tight ends we've ever seen in the entire league. And I understand that he's off to a slow start so far this year. In fact, a super slow start. But I mean, just the production we've seen from him before and the what he means to this team and offense, I can't imagine that it'll continue this way. I just do not believe that he is just not a part of the Ravens game plan anymore. There's no way. There's no way. I think him missing part of the training camp, I think him just looking like he's unhealthy right now, him making some, uncharacteristic drops is kind of affecting. Maybe there's a confidence level thing going on here. But I will put my life on the line that Mandrews returns to form by the end of the season. And I'm going to use any opportunity I can to get this tight end on my roster while I can. Because there's just no way in hell that he finishes the year with an 8% target share. There's no way. I would be so shocked if he finished the year with a sub 15% target share. Right now he's at 8.7. It's ridiculous. Something is just off, but I don't think it'll go like that forever. There's just absolutely no way that he doesn't turn into Mandrews again at some point. And so I just want to acquire him while I can. Some tight ends around him, already mentioned. Tucker Kraft, Ben Sinnott, Dalton Schultz, Cade Otton. I mean, come on. That's not Mandrew's territory, okay? So get him on your team, guys. I know it might take some time. I'm not saying get him and start him yet. I think that at this point you do have to have him show it to you. But just to have him on your roster, I think will mean a lot at some point this year. And especially next year, too, as he gets maybe healthier or things get figured out. I don't know what the hell is going on. Something is off. But I don't care. I want him on my team. And lastly, this is another one where, you know, people are going to say you're buying high and maybe too high. Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy right now is the wide receiver 25 in Dynasty, the wide receiver 31 in Redraft. And honestly, I feel like if you were to go to your league mate that has him, I feel like the valuation or what it would cost to acquire him would cost more than his current performance and value suggests. But I'm okay paying the piper for Xavier Worthy, especially in Dynasty. But even in Redraft, I want this player too. And I can already see it now. Somebody is totally going to put in the live chat or in the YouTube comments, well, what if the Chiefs trade for another wide receiver? You know, won't that hurt Xavier Worthy's value? Maybe. Probably. Will it affect it that much? No, not really. And I just don't think it's worth waiting at all to acquire this player. If you can get Xavier Worthy, you should get Xavier Worthy. Already 3 touchdowns on the season. We finally saw a deep Patrick Mahomes shot to this player, like his first deep touchdown in years now. Xavier Worthy is going to be continuing building his connection with Patrick Mahomes. He's the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City now for the rest of the season, probably, even if they bring someone in. His speed combo is just incredible with Patrick Mahomes. It's just a match made in heaven. And so at really whatever cost, I want Xavier Worthy. I want him so bad right now. Some players around him that I would honestly, Jordan Addison, I would rather have Xavier Worthy. George Pickens, I would rather have Xavier Worthy. Brandon Ayuk, I would rather have Xavier Worthy. Jalen Waddle, I would rather have Xavier Worthy. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I would rather have Xavier Worthy. Honestly, it goes on and on. I don't think that this player's value has caught up to the performance that he's going to bring rest of season or even throughout his career. They used a first-round pick on this player. And generally, the Chiefs rookie wide receivers are slow to start off breaking out. But he's already broken out. He broke out immediately. I mean, he scored the first touchdown of the Chiefs season, for God's sake. So this is a player I want so bad, especially in Dynasty. I will pay up. I offered DK Metcalf straight up, just to tell you. I offered DK Metcalf straight up like 3 weeks ago for Xavier Worthy. Like, I want him so bad. So bad. And I can't really explain it enough. Get him on your team while you can, guys. Xavier Worthy, Redraft and Dynasty. Going to be a stud rest of season. Going to be a stud in his career. And the fact that you could get him outside of top 24 wide receiver value to me is honestly crazy. So Xavier Worthy, one of my biggest buys right now. Sure, you're buying high, but I don't think it matters. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Market Watch. We are buying Xavier Worthy. We are buying Mark Andrews. We are buying DeAndre Swift. We are selling Jonathan Brooks. We are selling Chuba Hubbard. We are buying Tank Dell. We are selling George Pickens. And we are buying Tua Tagovailoa. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's check out the questions that I saw popping up in the chat. I'm going to go to the top and then scroll to the bottom. Would you trade Drake London for Darnell Mooney and Chuba Hubbard? No. I mean, I would look for Mooney plus. I'm not looking to acquire Hubbard right now, as we just talked about the sell case. If you can make that a different running back, I would probably do it. It's honestly looking like Darnell Mooney is going to outperform Drake London this season. How long can we go winless in a league before you have to look to next year and beyond, especially when draft order is based on points for? Honestly, if I am 0-4 right now, unless I've got like a legitimate chance to turn it around, because you can go undefeated the rest of the year or whatever. For the most part, I would say 99% of the time, you should start rebuilding. I think that this is a lesson I'm starting to learn myself this year. Rebuilding. just rebuild. I'm always been someone that tries to compete year in, year out, try to win that thing no matter how bad my roster is. But I finally adopted a bad orphan this year, like a truly just shit team. And I've had a lot of fun rebuilding it, just like accepting that I'm not winning and making some fun trades. And honestly, I feel pretty proud of the team that I'm starting to build. And I think that if you are winless right now and things look like if everything just has to go right for you to win this thing, you're probably not going to win this thing, more than likely. You know how hard it is to actually win a fantasy league? You could be first place all season long and then just lose that damn championship. At the end of the day, it's all luck. So I would honestly, if I'm not winning right now, if my team is just good but not quite great yet, I'm pulling the plug. I'm going rebuild. What are we doing with Rachaad White? He's probably a buy. But it's looking like it's going to be a split all season. And I just have a trouble buying those running backs. But you could get them for a decent price right now. Would you trade Cooper Kupp for Rico Dowdle with Chase Brown? I would hold Cooper Kupp. You do not drop Anthony Richardson yet, but you do definitely pick up Justin Fields. I do agree that Pickens and Young and has the talent. And I probably should have classified him as a hold/sell. But what I'm just saying about George Pickens is I'm mostly just calling the top. It's similar to like my Rashee Rice take a couple weeks ago when I said sell Rashee Rice. It isn't that Rashee Rice was a bad wide receiver, and it wasn't that Rashee Rice was probably going to end up being a league winner this season, but he had moved up to like wide receiver 9 in Dynasty, and I didn't see any more room to grow. And so I said sell Rashee Rice, and that's kind of how I feel about George Pickens. He's wide receiver 23 right now, and I feel like at most he could be like wide receiver 20, wide receiver 19, and I just don't know if he'll ever really attain that with Justin Fields or even Russell Wilson as his quarterback. And plus, in the show, I did mention I'm a big fan of Roman Wilson too, coming in at some point. So I don't know. I would at least explore selling, but if you end up holding him, that's fine. I mean, like I want a good return. I just think you could get a pretty good return for him. Who would you sell on this Dynasty team? Rachaad White, Anthony Richardson, Ramondre Stevenson, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra, Terry McLaurin, Trey McBride, Zach Charbonnet. I would trade Zach Charbonnet. I would trade Zach Charbonnet and Garrett Wilson. I'm a big sell Garrett Wilson fan. I know a lot of people love Garrett Wilson, and that's exactly why I'm selling him. I think he's good. And that's it. Is Braylon Allen going to end up being the RB1 from this class? Probably not, no. The player profiler rankings, we have rankings for everything, GK. So definitely highly recommend checking that out. We've got PPR, we've got half PPR, we got standard, we got Superflex, we got tight end premium, we got Scott Fishbowl, we got FFPC, we got underdog, all sorts of different rankings. Would you trade David Montgomery in a second-round pick for Rashee Rice? You are a contender. No, if you're contending, I don't think you go after Rashee Rice right now. Or at least I don't think you trade away David Montgomery. I mean, that's a dude that's a lock to score you 10 points every single week. I mean, that's a good value to get Rashee Rice, I feel like. But I would probably, for the most part, hold that. I would try a different player. With you being competing, it says you have like a Kyron. Maybe see if you could just give Kyron straight up or something for Rashee. I don't know. It's close, but not quite. I think if you're competing, you just try to win. I think that getting Rashee Rice would just kind of mess that up. Would you trade Wan'Dale Robinson for Tank Dell? Yeah, if that's on the table, do it. Yeah, get Tank Dell over Wan'Dale Robinson. Tank Dell is easily a buy low. You traded Puka for Dell in a draft pick in my keeper. Nice. There you go. I like that. Let's see. Trying to trade Wan'Dale. Should I go after Dell or Mandrews? Yeah, either one. Would you trade Kareem Hunt for Wicks? Yes. Let's see. Start Watson or Lawrence? Never. I don't feel like doing start sit. Sorry. If you're 0-4, well, 0-4 with Kenneth Walker, I think you should probably at least give it a couple more weeks before you go full rebuild. But things aren't looking great for you. George Pickens in a second. I mean, like if I would send that out for Rome Odunze or something in Dynasty, I think that could be fun. Is it crazy to trade Tyreek Hill for Stephon Diggs? Yes, I think so. Because I do think Tua's going to return, and I think Tyreek Hill will probably end the season on a tear. In fact, I might be coming around to buying Tyreek Hill. He was my biggest sell heading into the season. If you tuned into any Wake and Take episode, I pretty much talked about how much I'm selling Tyreek Hill. I didn't understand his value coming into this season. And I know that it didn't even really take a Tua injury to prove me right either. There's just no reason that a 31-year-old wide receiver should be valued as high as he was. Just absolutely not, especially in comparison to his peers. But right now, I think you'd be selling low on Tyreek Hill for Stephon Diggs. Now, if you get a cherry on top, that's where we start talking. Let's see. Would you trade London for Hubbard and Mooney? No. I think I already answered that one now. Let's see. One of my Dynasty leagues is trying to add a rule right now in which they allow FC first come, first some transactions on game day instead of waivers. I'm pissed that they're considering it. Should I be pissed? Honestly, if they're making the change now, I could see why that's frustrating, but that's how I choose that's how I try to do any league, really, is just free agency and game days. You can drop players on your bench, take flyers in each game slate. I have a lot of fun doing that. I would just lean into it. Doomy, my philosophy in life is have fun. I've had a lot of things go negatively in my life. And over the last couple of years, I've just said, basically, fuck negativity, just lean into it, have some fun. There's no reason to be pissed about this. It could be a little bit frustrating, but also on the bright side, now you can take advantage of this new rule and have some fun. Take some flyers in every single game slate, right? Like, that's cool. You could pick up a player at 1 p.m., drop them at 4 p.m., and drop that 4 p.m. player at 8 p.m., and then drop that Sunday night player for a Monday night player. It's cool. Just go with the motions, man. Just go with the motions. Enjoy life. Enjoy your league. Have some fun. Let's go. Everyone. We're going to end it there. We're going to end it there with some life advice, guys. No sense being pissed. No sense being sad. Embrace it. Embrace life. Embrace change. And have a fantastic day. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And I'll see you all tomorrow as we preview some more action in week 5, go over the injuries and the other big news stories of the week. So it's going to be a good one. I will see you all then. Have a wonderful Wednesday. A fantastic rest of your week. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe. And have a good one. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.